Hi, good afternoon, Jessica. How are you?
I'm great, Jenny Lynn. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that we were able to connect through Instagram. Your page spoke to me, and I love your energy and your posts, and your reels are so much fun. So
Thank
you,
you.
yeah, you have a great smile, and I absolutely love what you're putting out there for women. Jessica is the host of a newer podcast called Confidence and Communication, and she is also a coach, a life coach. She does some speaking. She's got quite a intensive background on your speaking now, and a mama of three. She raised those boys all by herself, so kudos to that. And I am going to let Jessica take the reins and tell us about how you started your speaking program.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. I did want to just thank you for acknowledging my boys and that I've raised my boys on my own. I think sometimes as moms, we work so hard just to survive that we forget to celebrate those things. And this morning I went for a drive and I was thinking about my sons are big now. They're all much taller than me. And I was just thinking what a blessing it is. They're to have a child, to have children is such a blessing. So thank you for acknowledging that.
Yes,
So I have a Speaking Up program, and it's a lifetime membership. So when people join, they get to be in the Speaking Up program for as long as the program exists. We have a private Facebook group community, and we have monthly Zoom calls. And so in the Zoom calls, you have an opportunity to be in the hot seat for coaching. And what comes up most often in my speaker program is the confidence and the preparation around speaking. So there's some tools in there around how to write a talk, how to pitch a talk, how to get paid for a talk. But a lot of the work that we do is around confidence to be seen. And where this came from was over years of me trying to figure out, what do I want to do with my life? And in 2013, I became a certified life coach. And I didn't know what the heck I was going to do with that because it was fairly new. There wasn't a lot of life coaches in the world that were online. It was just starting to get active online. And I had to figure out how I was going to make a career out of being a life coach. And so I went through a couple of different phases. The first one was, I think I call it basic life coaching, because a lot of life coaches start there with happiness and gratitude and, how do you have a fulfilling life, and going through a lot of that, which is a valuable and very important step, I think, for everyone and for life coaches to go through. So I started coaching in that area, helping women find fulfillment in what they were doing in their work, that sort of thing. Eventually it turned to business coaching because I had left corporate. I left a corporate job, and then I left any other part-time job and contract work in order to become an entrepreneur. So I was helping others who wanted to do that. And a lot of that had to do with safety and trust in, things other than what we're taught about salary and all the benefits and all the reasons that people are afraid to leave big jobs.
Yeah.
And I had I've always volunteered, and I've always been involved in community organizations. I was very involved with the Chambers of Commerce for about 10 years, 2 different Chambers of Commerce. And I was chairperson of each of them for 3 years in total. And I had so many opportunities to speak. And so sometimes it was once a week, sometimes it was once a month. And I was in front of hundreds of people, and I was introducing our luncheon speakers or doing something where I was speaking in front of a crowd. And when I started doing that, I knew I wanted to get good at it because I didn't want to embarrass myself going up in front of people.
Terrifying. Oh my God.
Yeah. But there was something in me that was just like, you know what, just, okay, you didn't do this as well as you would like to. So in my head, this is what was going on. I tell myself, next time I'm going to do it this way. And I just kept getting better and better and better. And I loved it. And I loved it. And I never thought anything of it until people started coming up to me saying, I want to do what you do. Show me how you go up there and you're so confident. And it was women, like women would come up to me saying, I want to be able to speak like you. I need you to coach me. And so that was, that was when it really started to turn, like the wheels in my head and all the ideas exploding. And I thought, you know what? I would love to do that. I would love to coach women who they're like, you know what? I'd love to go up there, but I just can't do it. I just can't seem to put my foot on the stage. I can't seem to get the mic in my hand, or I can't seem to figure out what the heck I want to say.
Right.
And that's where it started. And I've been doing the program for over 2 years now. And yeah, I love it.
That's incredible. That's awesome. I mean, speaking confidently is kind of almost it's very two different things, because anybody can kind of talk, but you can kind of ramble. I tend to ramble all the time. And then I'm like, I'm just not a professional yet. So someday I will be a more confident speaker, and so doing the podcast, I'm getting there. I am absolutely getting there. And I thank all my listeners for being patient with me, by the way, too. So tell me, when you were at the Chamber of Commerce, what did you speak about when you were doing those type of speaking events?
So often it was doing introductions to speakers and like giving updates and just a lot of like, chamber content stuff. And so it wasn't a lot of my own personal stuff. But in the midst of that, I also started a training company. So I continue to offer training in certain areas. And for a while I was doing Indigenous awareness training. And in Canada, like we're going through this whole truth and reconciliation adventure. And there was a lot of conversations in the news about Indigenous people and their history with the relationship with the government of Canada. And so I ended up starting a training company in that whole area. I did that for about 5 years. And that was when I really started to tell my own story and my own personal experiences and connect experience with history so that people could really understand impacts and stuff like that. And so it was really helpful for me to use a lot of those practices because I help my clients do that now.
Yeah, and you sound very passionate about that as well. So people can definitely, connect with that. Tell me about, I know when we spoke before, you had quite a big trauma when you were younger, about your younger brother. How did that impact you and kind of moving forward? I know a lot of women kind of struggle with, past traumas and all. Tell us how you got through that period.
Sure. Yeah.
That's if you don't mind, obviously.
Absolutely. No, I'm fine to share that. So my brother was killed by the police in 2005. And I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I've lived here my whole life. And at the time I think I was 27 years old. I had 2 sons at the time. Today I have 3. And was I 27? Oh my God.
Flies, I know, right? Oh my gosh.
It flies. And so my brother, he was 18 years old. And it was obviously very tragic. It was very public. It was in the front page of the news for days. It was on the 12 o'clock news, the 5 o'clock news, whenever you turn the news on for days and days. And it was also something that anytime there was anything in the country that had to do with police and Indigenous people, reporters would call me and I would get invited to speak on topics. And eventually I was like, no, I'm not interested in doing that. That just wasn't for me. But it was hard. It wasn't the first time that my family had something as tragic. It was the first time it was something as public. Okay. But there was a lot of tragedy that I grew up around in my environment, in my life. But when it's your brother, like it's something different, right? And I'm a young adult, I was a mom at the time, and it really caused me to start questioning just life in general. And I think that, anyone who experiences a tragedy like that does that. You start wondering about God, you start wondering about, what am I here for? What is my purpose? And I think sometimes, I think eventually we may all get to that point where we're questioning things if we're recognizing that something needs to change or something needs to happen as a result of this. And so I had some really interesting spiritual experiences at that time. So before then, like growing up, even when I was a young mom, I had no exposure to any sort of tradition or culture, religion, or anything. And so I always knew that there was this void. I knew there was something. I could hear, what I refer to now as universe or inner being. I always knew that I had that voice and that inspiration, but I didn't understand it. I didn't know where it was coming from or what it was or anything like that. And I did go to church for a little while to, try to fill that. And when I was kneeling in front of my brother's body at the morgue was when for the first time in my life, I heard this audible voice in my head, like that told me to kneel. And I was like, okay, weird, but okay. I'm obviously really emotional, and I'm at the point where I'm just like, I don't know if you swear or not on here, but I won't swear.
If you like, it doesn't matter.
It was ultimately like, fuck it. Like, yeah. I have no control over this, and I'm feeling something, I'm going to follow it. And so I went down on my knees. And then the next thing that I heard was, say thank you. And my head is like, say thank you. Like, what am I saying thank you for? I'm kneeling in front of my dead brother. Like, I don't understand. And so I just, again, fuck it. I'm here. What else can I do? And so I said, thank you. And it was crazy. Like, it was almost like I got pulled through this vortex of something. And I had this appreciation for the opportunity to love my brother and to know him and to meet him in a way that I would have, like, if someone would have told me, oh, this is going to happen, I'd be like, yeah, you're weird. It doesn't make any sense. But I had that experience. And ever since then, I was like, whoa, like there's more, there's something to life. There's something here. And like, it was really incredible. And it was also really hard to say, like, holy shit, I lost my brother, but I had this amazing experience. Yeah. It was really difficult to say that because I thought, well, how selfish of me to think that this, had anything to do with me. And again, like, there's so many layers into it. One of the things that I realized was that my brother's death, the tragedy of it, my relationship with him, everything that came out, like what I've learned about the world that came after his death, helps me realize that my life is not about me and Matthew. And Matthew's death is not about me. Matthew's death is not about my mom. Matthew's death is not about all of the things that we think it's about. Matthew's death is about him and God. And my relationship is about me and God. Super deep, I know. Wow. But that's what changed my life. When I realized, you know what? If my brother was here, we'd be working on a relationship, like you do with your siblings. Yeah. But he's not. And the gift that I received was that lesson. And I'm a very spiritual person now. Obviously, you must know that already by listening. But I believe that my brother, and I've had the same experience with my grandmother's death, I believe that they're with me every day. And because of that, like, I don't feel any guilt. Yeah. Like, I think when people lose someone, it's important to question what you believe in, and it's important to get clear on it and pick something. I think we all get a choice to pick what that is. And if you don't pick it, and if you don't pick it with conviction and commitment, then you're going to continue to struggle. But I know for myself, that's what helped me. That's what saved me.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I mean, it's such a beautiful story. I know that a lot of us struggle with a big trauma in life, and a lot of people are like, well, what is this trying to teach me? And you kind of have to go through different stages of grief. You're upset. You ask the why me, why this? And you don't want to necessarily, I've heard in other speakers, how do I get over this? How do I get over this? And you don't necessarily want to get over it. You have to get through it. And you have to do it the best that you can.
Yeah. And one of the things that I would encourage people to do, and it seems absurd, it seems ridiculous, it seems almost stupid, right? Like when you talk about these things for the first time or when you hear it. But you know what I would say is go in a room, cry if you need to, yell, swear, do what you need to do, yeah, and just say, hey, and start talking to them. Yeah. And one of the things that was like a loud message to me internally that I received, even when I was young, even before I knew anything about prayer, is I knew prayer is supposed to be a conversation. But what I learned during those few years that I was going to a church was prayer was taken as a speech. Like when you're in prayer, you're given a speech, and that's what you're doing to God. But I was just shaking my head, and I was like, how does that make any sense? Like when we're talking to each other, when we're talking to our spirits, our, God creator universe, it's a conversation, and we need to be open to that. So speak and remember to listen. I think that's like a big thing that's missing in a lot of the messages. So if I ever become a preacher of spirituality, that'll be my message, is listen.
Listen, yeah, absolutely. Listening is just part of the whole experience and connection that one body or one soul has to the universe or your higher power, or whatever it is that your faith that you believe in. You just have to allow it. And yeah, and grief looks different to everybody, right? I mean, you can cry, you can scream, and there's different stages. Just be patient. And I love to think that everything happens for a reason, and it's there to teach us, to motivate us. So thank you for sharing that story. Thank you for sharing it. They're always there watching and keeping us going. Tell me some of your, I guess, speaking gigs, if you will. You have quite a few extensive people that you've opened up for, right?
And you know what? It's super cool. And actually, someone asked me yesterday, what was my coolest speaking event, or, my best speaking memory? And people will most often expect me to say that I introduced Michelle Obama to 7,500 people, which was a fabulous experience because like many women, I'm a huge fan of her. She's just inspirational, and she's just brilliant. And she, meeting her was as fun as you would imagine it would be. She's just that fabulous. But I actually had a presentation yesterday afternoon to a high school group, and it was online. We were supposed to have it in person, but it ended up being online. And speaking to high school students is one of my favorite things to do. It's a challenge, I find. I mean, I ideally, my preference is to speak to adult women because I feel like I've had enough experiences that I can connect there. Yeah. But I remember being in high school, and I loved when we would have guest speakers come in and talk about their stories, because as young people, we think that everyone else has their shit together. And we're just like, oh, well, we're just, kids trying to figure it out, and life is so hard and everything sucks. And when a guest speaker comes in, they're often, I mean, the ones that we've had, they're talking about a challenge. They're saying, hey, I've dealt with this challenge. you're going to make it, you
Right.
know? And so when I get a chance to speak to high school students and they're engaged, that's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to love those days too. They were, because sometimes you can be like, oh, well, isn't this person supposed to tell me what to do when I'm an adult? Like, what am I? You're like, well, they don't have the answers. How am I supposed to have the answers? I'm only 16, But like you said earlier in the conversation, I mean, you had a corporate job. I mean, you did other things. I mean, a lot of us out there, we don't love working for somebody else and just working to get your paycheck, and you feel like there's another passion and another purpose to your life, but what is it supposed to be? And I think until you really sit down with yourself and allow that kind of like inner voice to be like, okay, what is it that you're so passionate about? And sometimes you have to pivot. You're like, well, I thought that I was really good at this and I'm really passionate about it, but in the meantime, maybe your connection with people is just somewhere else. So you also have to be open to change and allowing that. Sometimes, I mean, change can be great. You stop being so scared of change. We're always so comfortable. Get out of your comfort zone and do something for the first time. So tell me one more time about your coaching program. If there's anyone out there who wants more information on just how do I get to be more confident, and how do I get to be more confident in front of people, kind of doing my thing. And now you speak more, I mean, you speak to like a general audience when it comes to, like, it's not a specific topic, right? I mean, you're just more how to be confident in front of people.
That's, yeah, my main like ideal clients to work with are women. It just, I think women are attracted to my work. I've worked with some men, but my marketing is directed towards women. And my message is really for women to use their voice to take up space. And what I mean by that is most of, like, all of our systems, first of all, were created by men, right? Our governments, all of our systems. And throughout the years, women have started to sprinkle in, but probably every, I mean, very general statement, but every industry or place of work or, types of, everything has been influenced by men. And there has been mostly men in the rooms. And then women start coming in, right? And as soon as one woman enters a room that's filled with men, that changes the energy. And as soon as she starts sharing her ideas and just sharing what's important to her, sharing what she thinks, that's changing the entire world. And a woman of color walks in that room, different energy, right? Same thing, changing the world, using her voice to take up space. And that to me is so important. And so what I do with women is I help them remember the value of being seen, because we grow up in environments, and I'm sure like this is not a new conversation. Many of us have had these conversations, but we grow up in environments that are designed to keep us small, right? Like you're allowed to be confident and be out there, but not too much, right? Like settle down,
Right.
Cover up, be quiet, don't be so loud, right? All of those things. Yeah. And now we're in a generation where women are sick of blending in. We're like, you know what? All my life, I've blended in. What happens when we become moms, right? We put ourselves aside for the sake of our children because we're good moms and we love them and it's important. But the other thing that happens is we forget who we are. And then when we try to remember who we are, we feel guilty, which is crap, right? It's crap.
You're so right, because that's part of my message. It's like you become a mom and it's like, okay, it's time to forget about who I am. Yeah. And it's all about the kids.
Well, and then you're struggling with, okay, like I want to have a podcast. I want to do this thing. And I struggled as a single mom. there were days where I was like, oh my God, I'm the most selfish person in the world.
Yeah.
But I realized the more that I was able to build my confidence, love myself, speak up for myself, stop blending in, stand out, I'm better for my kids.
Yeah.
I can make more money and take my kids to funner places. I could, improve my life and then really influence my kids so that they can, look at me and say, oh, wow, like, look what my mom has done.
Exactly.
And, every once in a while they'll, make some comments like, oh my goodness, I just remembered this. I just had this flashback a few years ago. I was sitting at the dining room table and I had my MacBook and I was updating my resume. And this was like the times where I was like job hopping and everything. And it was a good day. And I just remember typing and I said out loud, I wonder what else I could put on my resume to make me sound really cool. And my oldest son was 16 at the time. And he said, how about the fact that you raised your kids on your own or something like that? And I started crying. Just the fact that he, to get that recognition, like, like I think moms will get it, and I don't know if ever people really understand, like, to be seen, how valuable that is. And then recognizing, you know what, I want to be visible. I want this. I worked hard. I raised my kids on my own. I have a business. I've struggled in business. I've succeeded in business. And, I want to be visible. I want to raise my profile. And that's really what my Speaking Up program is about. So some of the people that come through it is, I've had women, they're like, I don't want to be a speaker. I don't want to be on stage. I don't want to do any of that shit. But I don't want to be invisible. Right. But I do want to be seen. I do want to take myself seriously. I want to build my confidence. And the women that say that they don't want to be speakers, like, they're doing incredible things. Like, one of them in particular was speaking at national conferences before she finished my program.
Nice. Yeah, we have a voice. Why are we so afraid to use it? Why do we feel like we have to be in this room? And yeah, for your son to acknowledge that is absolutely incredible. And it does kind of just makes it all worth it. I have two beautiful, healthy, amazing children. I'm so blessed beyond words. But it's almost like a thankless job. It's hard and you don't get paid, and you're working every second of the day to raise these humans, but
yeah.
And you want them, and that's another reason why I want to do this, because I want them to see that because I'm passionate about something and passionate about my voice and my story, I want them to know that, hey, mom can do this other than wash your clothes and be at your beck and call 24/7.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do all the things. You just have to take that step and believe in yourself and have the confidence to get it out there,
And you know what I'd like to add in this conversation is, like, we tell women, like, find the confidence, like, just get the confidence and you can do it. But I think it's important for me to share, and I always forget to do this, but I did not grow up confident. I grew up with very low self-esteem. Being a First Nation woman in Canada, a lot of the messages that I hear about being a First Nation person was the stories of missing and murdered Indigenous women. And so I knew as a young person, as a teenager, that if I quit school, if I went missing, if I was murdered, I wouldn't matter. I would just be added to another list, and who cares? And so I grew up with that level of self-esteem. So, young teenager getting into all kinds of things that I should not have been involved in. And I quit high school. I got pregnant, and like, that was going to be my life. Eventually, I ended up marrying my son's dad. So together we have 3 boys, and we're now divorced. So I became a divorced single mom. I only had a grade 12 education, and my brother was killed, and I'm trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life? I'm a loser. I have nothing. I have nothing to offer. I I'm not specialized in anything. I don't know anything. I did not have self-esteem. And I think, and I've had people from time to time, see me active on Instagram and see the content that I put out there and say things like, oh, Jessica was born with a silver spoon, or I can't remember what the phrase is.
Oh gosh.
And the first time I heard it, I burst out laughing because I was like, no fucking way. Like, people have no idea.
Yeah.
I did so much crying. And you know what? If anyone who's listening is feeling times where you want to cry and you're not letting it out, let it out, because so much crying allowed me to release so much energy. And it was a huge part of my healing. I talked to job counselors, therapists, any kind of counselor, elders, psychics, mediums. When I was ready for help, I talked to everybody. And the message that I got was, it's inside you, you know it. And today I still, consult with coaches and people in my life, but I have grown so much spiritually that I know my whole world is inside. And before I do anything, I had a call with one of my clients last week, and she's like, I don't know how you're so positive. Like, you're sunshine, and just like these beautiful compliments. Yeah. And I said, thank you. I work every single day to make that my priority, which means I get up, I journal, I meditate, I read something. My mental health, my spirituality is so important to me. Yeah. If I'm not doing that in the morning, I'm no good to anybody. Yeah. But when I spend that time to do that for myself in the morning, and I know it's hard when you have small kids. I didn't know this. I didn't know what I know now when my kids were small. And even if I did, I don't know if I would have been able to be who I am today with small kids. This is the way my life turned out. Yeah. But, I think it was important for me to share that I've not always been confident. And today, I'm a totally different person. Wow. It's possible.
It does take inner work. You can't just snap your fingers and wake up one morning and be like, boom, I'm this person. You have to work on yourself, and you have to do it consistently. What works for you, the practices that work for you.
That's right.
Yep. So with talking with other women and speaking to different modalities on how to work on your inner self. I've done the journaling and gratitude practices and affirmations and meditations, and I may not do them all at once on the same day, but I have to do at least one or two of them on a daily basis to keep my mind, and just because on a day that my body may physically have some aches and pains, I'm okay with that because my mind is in a better place. It's just different. It hits you different,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I find that you do have to find what works for you, but don't stop. You have to keep going. It's anything that you do. You practice baseball when you're a kid, you practice dance when you're a kid, and you do it not once a day, you do it 3-4 times a week at hours at a time. Anything like this is going to take time. And I think as adults, we are easily to give up because we just think things should come easier because we're an adult. Yeah. And it's not true. It's almost the opposite, because we have life going on. We have all the things, but in order for us to do what we want to do passionately and to live a life of positivity, and grace and happiness and all those, we have to do other things within ourselves. But you have to stay consistent with it, or else it's not going to work. It's just not.
That's right. You can't get to a happy ending on an unhappy journey.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Absolutely. I really loved where this conversation went, and thank you so much for sharing your story. It's so inspiring, and to know that, no matter where you are, you can get to where you want to go. You just have to enjoy the journey and know that you can get there. Don't ever give up on yourself, because you're worth it.
Absolutely. Great
Yeah,
message.
absolutely. So I just have two quick questions for you that I've been asking all my guests. So if
Okay.
you could go back to any time frame in your life, whether it's childhood or grade school or high school, what period would you pick and why?
That is tough. Wow. If I could go back to Hawaii right now for a 10-day holiday, that's where I'd go.
I'm with you. Book a two-way, one-way, or book a two people, one-way ticket. I'm out. No.
Yes, sounds like a good plan.
Yes. All right. And then the other, what advice would you give to anybody that does suffer from whether it's a mental chronic illness or physical pain every day? Do you have any advice for them?
Absolutely. You know what I would say is anxiety is something that I deal with often. And I feel like it's something that I would like to talk about more. I don't know why it doesn't come out more, but because I think a lot of people have anxiety and they're embarrassed about it.
Right.
I have anxiety. I have for like, since I had my second son, just being a parent and struggling in a relationship, I've had lots of anxiety. And my advice is kind of the same thing. Never stop asking for help. Seek help and never stop asking. There's different questions to ask. There's different people to ask, and you don't have to suffer, but also, and maybe this is just me, like I've learned now ways to cope with it. Don't be afraid if you have to take medication, like don't be ashamed.
Right.
Don't be scared to try new ways of coping and managing with it. And one of my best ways of coping with it is being okay to step aside if you can. If you can say, okay, you know what, I'm having a shit day, I need to go have a nap, or I need to go have a shower, or I need to go to the park and walk my dog in the trees, like be in nature.
Right.
So that would be my advice.
Yeah, being grounded is so important. And yes, your mental health is just as important, if not more than your physical health, because our mind just controls so much of our body. And it's so important to have that good mental health. Wonderful explanation there. Thank you so much for your time, Jessica. I will put all of links and information so people, if they want to get a hold of you, they can find everything and listen to Jessica's podcast. She's got some incredible guests on there and some awesome conversations. I enjoy listening to all your shows. So thank you for putting that out there. Excellent.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too, Jessica. You have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks. Bye-bye.